Hello people of the internet, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. Today we're going to be talking about the real case behind Hulu's popular miniseries Candy. This miniseries stars Jessica Biel, and there's soon going to be another series coming out on HBO Max called Love and Death starring Elizabeth Olsen. But before both of these came out, there was actually a TV movie in 1990. So this is a very popular and an insane case, to say the least. Candace, or popularly known as Candy Lynn Montgomery, was born on November 15th, 1949 in Lucas, Texas, which is a relatively small town. She grew up with a very independent spirit. She was the type of person to get what she wanted, do what she wanted, when she wanted it. She even moved out on her own right after high school. So yeah, she was a very hard-working person. But although she was super hardworking, her real dream was to just be a mom and a wife. And her ultimate rule was to marry someone wealthy. But before she could find the right man, she had a lot of frogs to kiss. She was single, ready to mingle. She dated and she had fun, but she couldn't find exactly what she was looking for. But then she meets Pat Montgomery, who is an electrical engineer. Was he her dream man? No. Like, to her, Pat was super introverted and average looking, but he was destined to be rich one day. So we could look over a couple things, right? Right. That was where her mind was at. They had a small wedding, an inexpensive honeymoon, and they bought a home together in Lucas, Texas. Here they would have 2 children, a son and a daughter. On the outside looking in, the Montgomery family looked picture perfect, but looks can be deceiving and deadly in some cases. On Sundays, the family would regularly attend the Methodist Church of Lucas, and this is where Candy would meet Betty Gore. After one church service, the women became friendly acquaintances, in my opinion. A lot of reports say that they became best friends, but again, I would describe it as friendly acquaintances. Like, they were just merely 2 women with children who became friends. I don't even think the miniseries depicted them as being best friends, but let me know what you think. But I could be wrong. They really could have been best friends, and I'm just reaching. Who knows? The reports said that they hit it off well. So now Betty and Allan enter the chat. Betty and Allan met in college when he was her TA for one of her classes. They would later marry in 1970. Betty and Allan had 2 children, and at first Betty worked as a middle school teacher, but after the birth of their first child, their household became a single income household. After the birth of their daughter, Betty suffered horrible postpartum depression. And back then in the 70s, there wasn't much known about postpartum. So instead of getting the treatment that she desperately needed, they would just send her home, and possibly send her home sometimes with a Valium prescription. This caused Betty to retreat into herself, and this left Allan at a loss. So you can imagine the strain that this put on their marriage. One day at a weekly volleyball game that the church hosts, Candy notices Allan. Now, Betty didn't pay Allan any mind most days, until this day when they collided during one volleyball play. And her boredom led her to want to feel sexy, to want an affair. So she set her sights on Allan. With her sights set on a target, she flirts for weeks, and then asked him if he was interested in having an affair, with some guidelines like no strings attached, no plans of divorce, no I love yous, just strictly sexual. Now, Allan was shook, okay? Allan flabbergasted. Like, he was mind blown. He could not believe that this was happening to him. But he agreed. And this is where their secret rendezvous at less than desirable motels would begin. These once a week love-making sessions they were just everything to Candy. They made her feel alive. Who knew something so wrong, don't do this, would feel so good? Don't recommend though, don't do this. Just break up if you're not happy, don't cheat. They continued their sexcapades for months, and this is all Candy could think about. She was obsessed. She was so caught up that she decided to confide in a few friends, anonymously, of course. She did not reveal any names. Now fast forward to Friday, June 13th, 1980. Candy is blowing up Betty's phone. She's not answering. She's calling her multiple times, trying to get in contact with her to ask permission if it's okay for her daughter to spend one extra night. But Candy didn't think much of this. She was like, she has a new baby. This isn't weird at all for her not to answer the phone. With all that being said, she drives on over to Betty's house to ask her in person. But to her surprise, when she goes over there, Betty confronts her about her affair with Allan. At first, Candy straight up denies everything. She's like, I did not have sexual relations with that man, okay? Until Betty pulls out receipts of cards and letters that she has given Allan. And that's when Candy finally gives up and is like, well, I've been caught red-handed. She tried to explain herself away, saying like the affair it's been over, it's nothing to be concerned about, but Betty was not convinced. After that confrontation, Candy goes to the church for their summer Bible studies. Or excuse me, she went to Bible classes that the church would provide over summer vacation for the children. Betty Gore's absence from this Bible school wasn't unusual, and because of this, Betty went ahead and took her daughter on home for the night. Now Allan is blowing up Betty's phone and she's not picking up. So that's when he starts calling friends and neighbors to please check on Betty. And throughout the day, they're reassuring him that she's fine, she's okay, and that everything seemed normal. He even at one point calls Candy, who reassures him that everything's fine because she had been over there at 10 a.m. and informs him that their daughter, Elisa, would be spending another night at their house. But as night falls, Allan becomes more panicked and more persistent for his neighbors to check on his wife. So around 11 p.m., Allan calls his neighbor, Richard Parker, to go over to his house. At the time, Allan was away for business in Minnesota. So Parker went over to investigate the household with another neighbor named Lester Gaylor. And Gaylor told the Dallas Morning News, "We went down the hall to the bathroom, turning on the lights, and a little baby raised its head out of the crib. It began to cry. It had been there all day, nearly all day, hadn't been fed or nothing." From there, the men follow a trail of blood all the way down to the utility room. This is where they would find Betty Gore's body. She had been brutally murdered. Her head and body had been so badly mutilated that they genuinely thought that she had been shot with a shotgun. But a few feet away from her was a 3-foot-long axe. In Betty's autopsy, it would show that she had been struck 41 times with this axe. 28 of those blows would be to the head and face. From the brutal nature of her killing, it was immediately suspected from the authorities that somebody she knew did this. The murderer even tried to clean up the scene, but once they realized that there was too much blood, they left it alone. And then they proceeded to leave a bloody thumbprint on the freezer and a bloody sandal shoe print in the laundry room. The blood on the bathroom wall and the drain even revealed that the killer had taken a shower and cleaned off in Betty's bathroom after murdering her. The burnt cup of coffee left behind indicated that this happened sometime in the morning, which made the police suspect Allan, like maybe he did this before he left for his trip to Minnesota. However, this was disproven because his foot size does not match the bloody footprint. So who killed Betty Gore? We were looking for someone small in stature, where it was a child or a woman, said former Collin County investigator Stephen. A 5-year-old who was friends with Elisa Gore actually came and knocked on the door that morning and claims to the police that she saw Candy leaving the house around 11 a.m. So of course Candy was brought into questioning, where she tried to explain herself away, and she just said that she had stopped by Betty's house that morning, but only to grab a bathing suit for Elisa for swim practice. Stuff like this didn't happen in a small, quaint town like Lucas, Texas, so you can imagine how shook and scared everybody was that there potentially was a murderer on the loose. Hours after Betty was laid to rest, Allan was interviewed by the police. He admitted to the police that he and Betty got into a fight before he had left for his flight to Minnesota because she had possibly been pregnant again. And although Allan had told the police no to having an affair, the next morning he calls the police department and admits it to them. He confesses that he's been having an affair with Candy Montgomery for the past year. He claimed that it was all Candy's idea and that she came up with it in such a matter-of-fact way. But he had broken it off to try to mend his relationship with Betty after they had went to a church-sponsored couples retreat. That very same day, the police bring back Candy for more questioning. They ask her to take a polygraph test and she refuses. She just insists to them that she had nothing to do with this murder. But fingerprints and footprints were enough evidence to charge and arrest Candy on June 27th, 1980. When she was being booked and strip searched, they found a bunch of bruises all over her body and a cut on her toe. The murder trial for stay-at-home mom Betty Gore began in October 1980, a trial that would only last 8 days in McKinney, Texas. 8 days. That's not long at all. And hold up. You guys are not ready for this. If you have not seen the miniseries and you don't know what's about to happen, you are not ready for these results. So what was Candy's defense strategy? She had killed Betty in self-defense. She claimed that she was confronted about the affair with Allan, that she tried to tell Betty that it was over, it was long over, and she had nothing to worry about, but she had refused to believe it. That's when Candy claims that Betty came at her with an axe, which explained the cut on her toe, because allegedly Betty had come swinging the axe at the floor. They wrestled for control of the axe until Candy finally gets it. She gains full control of it and pushes Betty to the ground. And this is where she starts to hit her over and over and over again. And I will warn you, if you're watching or planning on watching the miniseries and you finally get to that episode where they're explaining it, trigger warning or vomit warning, that whole axe scene is very intense. It even makes me uncomfortable, and I don't get uncomfortable by a lot of things. Saw is my favorite series, so I don't get uncomfortable by a lot of things, but that made me feel a little queasy. So warning, 41 times in total, guys. That's overkill. That's overkill. She then gives a very eerie detail. She says that Betty whispers shh to her before she dies. Candy is fully panicked after this, which prompts her to shower fully clothed in Betty's shower, trying to remove everything from her clothing. From there, she rushes home for a change of clothes, and she tosses the bloodied evidence in her own washer. And as we know, after she cleans up, she heads to the Bible school. The prosecution argued that stabbing and hitting somebody 41 times with an axe for somebody trying to claim self-defense, that was overkill, and I totally agree. Candy's defense, however, retaliated and even brought a psychologist onto the stand who said that a childhood traumatic memory was triggered when Betty went, shh. I hit her. I hit her. I hit her, Candy said on the stand. You would think the jury would call BS. Like, why wouldn't she just leave after getting control of the axe? If it was really self-defense, why didn't she call for help afterwards? Or why did she leave a helpless baby alone without proper care? But with all of that, the jury deliberated in under 4 hours. And Candy Montgomery was acquitted for the murder of Betty Gore. As she left the courtroom, it's no surprise that people shouted at her, "Murderer, murderer." After the trial was over and done with, Candy moved to Georgia, allegedly Dawsonville, Georgia. This is where she still to this day works as a mental health therapist. Although Pat stayed strong for the trial, they would get a divorce later on. Allan remarried sometime between Betty's death and Candy's trial, and also lost custody of his children to his late wife's parents. This caused them to become estranged, but they are back in touch today. And now Allan lives happily retired in Sarasota, Florida, in a happy domestic partnership. But that, guys, is the case of Candy Montgomery that is inspiring a bunch of series today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations on cases, please comment them down below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that jazz. I'll see you guys next time. Namaste. Have a nice day.